All right, welcome back to SuperWest On Sundays, everybody. As always, I'm joined by fellow senior writer Stephen Vilardo, as well as fellow senior writer and assistant editor in Dane Miller. And the three of us make up SuperWest On Sundays. As you can hear in my voice, maybe a little sad being a Cougar fan, but a lot of good action around the conference. And we're going to talk about some big games from this week. Obviously, we had the Oregon-Utah matchup. We had the Arizona-Oregon State upset. We had some big games in the Mountain West, which I'll let Steve touch on a little bit here. But starting off the show, we're going to go straight down to Tucson, and I'm going to kick it to Dane and just your thoughts from the huge win for the Wildcats.
Well, I think Arizona was a little bit lucky to win the game. There was a very questionable special teams call at the end of the first half that Oregon State was in range to kick a field goal and take the lead going into halftime. And instead of just taking the points, they went for it. A fake field goal that got almost to the goal line, but the tackle was made and he was stopped short. Time ran out. And that really changed the momentum of the game. Oregon State would have went up at halftime, with the lead. Arizona got the ball to start the second half. Instead of being down, it was tied. Arizona went and took the lead. Oregon State then scored again after that, but that kind of really shifted the momentum. And I think it was really a boneheaded play. I mean, I know you're trying to be aggressive on the road, but, take the points. When you have the opportunity to take the lead into halftime, they always talk about the middle eight of games, the final 4 minutes of the first half, the first 4 minutes of the second half. Oregon State lost that battle because of that call, and that ended up being the difference in the game, a 3-point game. There was also a play that I remember in my mind specifically in maybe the fourth quarter. Oregon State had the ball down maybe 4 or 3. I couldn't remember what the score was exactly. DJ Uigalele had an opportunity. 2 guys were open deep. And instead of pulling the trigger and hitting one of those guys, he took a sack. And that really changed the momentum of the game. I think Arizona got the ball and then went and scored a touchdown after that. And that really kind of sealed the deal. Arizona almost messed it up at the end with really poor defense in the final 2 minutes and a really questionable execution of the onside kick recovery. But they held on to it. Crowd rushed the field. Arizona gets probably the biggest win of the Jetfish era and is really in position to make a bowl game now.
And then before we get too far away from kind of this game and the emergence of Arizona, I just got to ask, how good can this program be under No Fafita? He's only a freshman, and I mean, you picked this upset. I didn't see it coming. I mean, this beyond just him, this team seems to be really talented and really young.
Yeah, well, in the transfer portal era, I mean, I can give you a better handicap of it at, the midpoint of the offseason because who knows who's going to transfer out? Who knows who's going to enter the portal with other teams? Jedfish has been a great recruiter. And importantly, he made some staff additions over the summer or over the offseason and, really improved the defense. And so I think the key for the team is continuing to recruit on the defensive side and improve on the defensive side in general, whether that's through staffing additions, retaining your staff, whatever happens over the offseason, the focus has to remain on the defense because the offense is pretty much set. Jedfish recruits well on offense. Jonah Coleman is going to be coming back for another year. I think Michael Wiley's lost his eligibility at the end of the season. And I think Jacob Cowing too. So there's some additions that need to be made on the offensive side as well. But Jedfish has recruited pretty well on the offensive side. There's a bunch of players that don't see the field on the offensive side that are impact players and can make a difference moving forward. So Noah Fafita is good. It seems to be pretty good. So I don't think he'll enter the portal. But with the transfer portal, like I said, you never know what's going to happen over the offseason. And I can't really tell you moving forward because the roster's changed so much.
Yeah, I hear you, and that the transfer portal definitely does change things a little bit. And the loss of Cowling should be interesting. I think USC is a little bit more affected by the loss of Jordan Addison than people may realize. I think that point hasn't come up too much this year. Hopping into the next game, though, I know was the big game of the day was Oregon Utah. I spent my time watching that one, and really, I could talk about the Utes, but this was the first game where they just met a better team. Plain and simple. Bo Nix is a complete quarterback. And one thing I wanted to post on Twitter, but I got a little bit too tired, fell asleep. I think that really Bo Nix could be a Heisman, guys. Penix has been not rocky this week, not as rocky this week, but last week struggled a little bit. And Bo Nix is making all the big plays, and that was Utah on the road. I don't care about the offense. We knew their offense stunk. I mean, Bryson Barnes wasn't going to do against the Ducks defense, but Bo Nix was just consistent. Moved the offense. He's dominant. He always gets in the red zone with his rushing touchdowns. I believe he's has some crazy record, or it's like tied for some crazy record in regards to rushing touchdowns. And so Oregon is just really, really looking like a complete team. If they do get that rematch with Washington, that'd be a lot of fun to watch. But hell, maybe Arizona has something to say about it. A lot of football left here. I don't know how many conference losses does Arizona have, really quickly.
Two. Yeah, two.
Okay, so be an outside shot. But going back to the Ducks here, to that connection with Tez Johnson, Troy Franklin starting to merge. One play I was really impressed by, Bucky Irving. He got absolutely cracked by a Utah defensive lineman. Literally got lifted out of the air, fumbled the ball, and he kept running hard the rest of the game. So the Ducks' offense is coming together, and their defense was just vicious. But I can't take too much away from this just because we know how depleted Utah's offense is. At some point, this was going to happen. Bryson Barnes just couldn't do what Cam Rising did, extend plays, might be able to run the playbook. And bottom line, the Ducks look really good, almost college football playoff type good. Evan Williams out there in the secondary at safety, a transfer from Fresno State last year, is playing a really just amazing football. And they look like a really complete team. Forgetting about, I almost said Thibodeau. Brandon Dorlus up front as well is absolutely unblockable. Kind of like a Latu down at UCLA, except probably even better. So the Ducks are a complete team. They're dominant. Dan Lanning's done a hell of a job, and really just impressed by the performance. I know it may have felt expected, but going into Salt Lake City like that is not easy. And in the fashion they did it, they gave me an extra hour of time because I didn't have to watch the whole game. But kudos to the Ducks because sometimes wins like this are overlooked. So just want to say shout out to the Ducks and Bo Nix. Really, to me, could be a potential Heisman. And I was a huge Bo Nix hater last year. And I think rappers always say something along the lines of make your haters your fans. And now I'm a dude for Bo Nix. So, yeah. So with that, we got some Mountain West action. And Steve,
well, real quick, that Oregon defense is 11th in the nation in scoring defense. I mean, so Oregon's defense is legitimately good. I don't think there's any question that they're a college football playoff caliber team, and they had Oregon or they had Washington beat and really should have won that game. So I mean, I'd argue that they're the best team in the Pac-12 by far, and that loss at home was what was it? 29 points, whatever it ended up being, was the worst for Utah at home since I think 2014 when Arizona beat them 42-10. So something like that. So, and you're going back a long way to see a Utah team get outclassed at home that by that much. So that was something. But yeah. But if you go into the big one in the Mountain West, it was kind of Boise State and Wyoming. I mean, Boise State's had some questions. I know we've even talked about those questions. Wyoming has looked really good throughout the season. The two quarterback system, Madsen had a great game passing the ball, 12 of 15 for 147, and Green only threw it 6 times, but he ran more. Ashton Genty went down with an injury early on, but Boise's got George Halani back, and that was huge for them offensively. But Boise State just flat out shut down Wyoming. The Cowboys had 112 yards for the game, 27 yards on the ground, and I think in the fourth quarter or something, it was some ridiculous. I think it was 207-22 or something. I don't know if that's actually right, but it was something ridiculous in that fourth quarter of the stats. So it was the second half rushing yards were 112-9 in favor of Boise State. So I mean, they just flat out took a Wyoming team that had been playing very well. Wyoming's only losses are Air Force and Texas, who are obviously very good teams prior to yesterday. Just lost to Boise, obviously. So this Boise State team could be back. I mean, and they're still sitting with one loss in the conference. They've got they kind of control their own fate with the schedule that they've got. I think people writing off, maybe me included, Boise State a little bit too early because this team is not quite done yet. And I think they kind of proved that yesterday in dominant fashion for what it's worth. And offensively, I mean, the I'm not a big fan of the two quarterback system that they got, but it seems to be, at least be working a little bit. And Eric McAllister has been taken off the last like 4 weeks with it as well. And yesterday he had an outstanding day with like 7 catches for 160. So just putting up huge numbers for him.
Yeah, I mean, and having him kind of step up at receiver is huge because now you kind of have with the not uncertain, but it's a little bit unusual having a two quarterback system. Combine that with a decent rushing attack, it gives you a more complete offense. So for Boise, bottom line, this win kind of saved their. I don't want to save their program, but I think I've written in my previews. Had they lost this game, they were looking at a potential losing season for the first time since like 1998 or 1996. So it'd been quite some time. So a big win for the program. Obviously, not the year the Broncos won in its entirety, but big win to keep kind of stabilize things at least for the meanwhile. And I think the other game, you have any kind of quick thoughts on? Was it Fresno State UNLV?
Well, Fresno State UNLV was a pretty good game, and Fresno State got the 7-point win. It was kind of what you'd expect. It was at Fresno. I think when I was writing about that preview, uh, I said if it was in Las Vegas, I might have taken UNLV. But I mean, UNLV is a good team, and I think they're proving that this year that they're a program that's on the rise. And Fresno State's a solid team. Definitely, they'll have something to say about who's playing in the conference championship game too. And then the other one from the Mountain West was Air Force and Colorado State. And Colorado State did a really nice job of kind of taking a lot of things away from Air Force, especially in the first half. But then the Falcons just turned it on in the second half, and it ended up being 30-13. A lot of snow. Actually, the kind of one of the game-changing things was first drive for the Falcons in the second half, and Colorado State got an unsportsmanlike penalty for a snowball throw from the fans. So 15 yards added to that one on a third down, and it ended up being a touchdown drive for Air Force, and they kind of pulled away from that point on. Again, the second half or the cumulatives there was rushing yards 177-15. And in the second half, where in the first half, Air Force was held to just 100 total yards and 82 on the ground. So Colorado State did a good job for a half against them, but just couldn't really contain it. And Air Force again with the win and continues to roll.
Did you really just say a 15-yard penalty for snowball throw?
So at the end of the second quarter, like they were throwing snowballs, I guess the fans were, and they gave them a warning. And then on the first drive of the third quarter, there was a snowball thrown at the Air Force sideline, and it was a 15-yard penalty. So, yep, kept the drive alive and got them up to the 50, and there you go. So, yeah the snowball hurt around the world.
Making my dad proud because he's from Cleveland, as some Cleveland fans would probably do, and making my WSU alumni proud because I know when I went to Apple Cup back in the day that we were I can't say we, excuse me, but we can't, some select fans may have been throwing us snowballs at the UW band. So,
At the UW fans?
No, at the UW band.
Oh, the band. Okay. Oh, the band. Oh, well, it's slightly better, I guess. But
come on, we're WSU fans. We're trying to get a dub out here. Come on, you see our record right now, and UW's trying to win a national championship. We got to take every advantage. Let's see what else was on our agenda today.
In Cleveland, they were probably throwing more than just snowballs too. I think maybe snowballs packed with stuff in them also.
There's a whole story. You guys like baseball a little more than me. I think I wrote an article about this on a different website. It's called like 5-cent or 10-cent beer night in Cleveland. Happened in the 1970s. I don't remember.
Never again.
Exactly. Let's just say it is a great story, and you guys probably enjoy looking that one up in your free time. I think the game got stopped and involved a fire or something along those lines. All right, how far are we in the show? We talked pretty fast today, guys. So let's see here.
Wait, let me give my spiel about Oregon and Utah.
Okay, deal. Yeah, sorry, I kind of hogged that and hopped off. Yeah, what do you want to say about Oregon, Utah before too far?
Well, I'll say that Oregon embarrassed Utah. It was a complete domination and an absolutely just crushing victory for Oregon. It wasn't even close. The first drive of the game, they just eviscerated that defense that's supposedly one of the best in the country, and Oregon made it look terrible. And so I think in the context of which team is better, Oregon or Washington, who leads the Pac-12, who's the playoff team from the Pac-12, it's got to be Oregon. There's no way you can say it's Washington based on Washington struggling against Arizona State and then struggling against Stanford. And then you have Oregon going in and absolutely demolishing Utah. I don't think it's close anymore. I don't think it's a judgment call. It is Oregon. Oregon is the best team in the Pac-12. And if it comes to a rematch in Las Vegas between Oregon and Washington, I think Oregon's going to win somewhat comfortably because Washington is not playing very well. I guess they seem to be making, I don't want to say excuses, but they're trying to justify the performance of Penix based on injuries. They said he was sick this game. So, okay, I mean, I guess, sure, that's something, but how is your defense giving up, 33 points to Stanford? And, how are you in a single possession game against Arizona State in Seattle? Like, the excuses are running thin, and it really puts the context of that Oregon game into perspective. You make one play, if you're the Ducks, you make one play, you win the game. And, suddenly it changes the whole perspective of the conference, what happened in Salt Lake City. Because Utah is a good team. That's not a terrible team. Utah has a good defense. Sure, Bryson Barnes didn't do much on offense, but a 35-6 victory in Salt Lake City when they had a 29-game win streak at home and one of the best defenses in the country. Yeah, Oregon is for real. Oregon is the best team in the Pac-12, and it's not close.
And Barnes didn't play well because of the Oregon defense, too. I mean, I think that's another thing that Oregon defense is very, very good. It's not just Bo Nix in the offense anymore either. I 100% agree with you, Dane, on everything you said.
Yeah, the defensive line, they got Jordan Birch too. I think he's a transfer from South Carolina.
Yeah.
And their issues the last few seasons have been along the defensive line. They haven't been good on third down. They have like a couple star players the last few years on the defensive line, but they didn't really have depth and they didn't really have the ability to rotate. And I don't know if maybe that's different this year or just they have more stars along the defensive line or whatever's happening out there. The defensive line is the difference this season. And it showed, and it has been showing this whole year. So we'll see if they can continue it because Utah's offense is not good. Let's not act like that was a good offense, but we'll see. I mean, yeah.
But for Utah, it was 2.8 yards per carry yesterday and 5 of 15 on third downs. So, I mean, yeah, that line did their job.
Yeah, and how many of those were in garbage time?
True.
I feel like probably 3 of them were in garbage time after the game was already out of hand. Like Oregon just completely dominated. It was impressive.
Yeah, and to your guys' point, I mean that line is absolutely disgusting. You touched on Jordan Birch. I touched on Brandon Dorless earlier. They also have a Popo Amave. So when you have 3 guys who can really get after you, there's not really a lot you can do unless you have an elite offensive line. So Ducks are definitely a little bit more than offense, even though I might have just had to oversell the offense because I definitely was a huge Bo Nix hater. And he's proven me wrong. I enjoyed watching him play yesterday, and I like seeing the growth like that. So I think, guys, see, you guys want to hop into let's see, any other games we could do? USC Cal really quick, or do you guys want to go into our players of the week /
I'll make a comment about USC. I don't really think we should talk about them that much anymore because I want to focus on the teams in the Pac-12 that are good and are competent. And USC is not one of those teams. Like they need to fire Alex Grinch. You let up 49 points to Cal, and you need like a missed 2-point conversion to beat Cal. It's just not even worth talking about them anymore because we know what the problems are. I mean, Caleb Williams scores 50 points, leads his offense to 50 points, and they only win by 1. Like, no, the changes need to be made. You need to fire Alex Grinch. You need to hire a competent defensive coordinator. And imagine what USC would be if it had a good defense. And they have the players. It's not like they're not skilled. They got the players to do it, and they got plenty of NIL money to get any player that they wanted. So it's coaching, and it's been coaching, and everybody knew it was coaching, and yet they still didn't make a change, and it's the same old, same old. Like, I understand they're 7-2, they have 1 loss in conference and can still make the Pac-12 championship game, but I'm over it. I'm tired of what USC is doing and what the Trojans are doing. It's just I don't even think that's my comment, and like I'm just frustrated with what they have, considering the skill that they have on both sides of the ball. You put a different coaches in the situation, you have different outcomes, and they're refusing to do that. So you need to fire Alex Grinch. Just get it over with.
Yeah, and first off, I hats off to Wilcox for going for 2 there. I love that call. Go for the win. You're Cal. You got nothing to lose. Go for it. And USC is not going to win another regular season game this year. So
Ooh,
looking at their schedule.
Who's on
wait,
their
tell
schedule?
yeah, tell me who you. I want to hear
Yeah.
this. Let's see. Who do they play? Who do they play?
All right, they've got let's see, Oregon.
Okay.
Let's see, Washington. Let's take
Mm,
a look here. I'm going to pull it up here because I
They're
got
not
to make
beating
sure
the
I got
Huskies. The Huskies actually have a slight.
UCLA. And is that it? They have got Washington next week, Oregon on the 11th, and then UCLA to end things on November 18th. So those are the three games remaining. Washington and UCLA are at home. They travel to Eugene.
Well, UCLA at home doesn't matter because it's in LA and it's a rivalry. So home field advantage, I don't know how much difference that makes. They're not going to beat Oregon and Eugene. So the question is, I guess, are they going to beat Washington? And Washington has not looked very good.
They're not.
So
The real question is how many points are going to get scored in that game between USC and Washington. I think over. What's the over under going to be on that one? Is it going to be set at like 73?
I was going to say
Yeah,
75.
that's 75. Yeah, and it could be way higher than that. Yeah. I'm sure the early line's
Wow.
out on it, but yeah.
All right, you're making the prediction. No more wins for USC. That's I think they beat Washington. So I don't. We'll see.
Yeah, guys. I think Washington personally. Sorry, I got my glass in there. I'm pulling up some stats. But I think personally that Washington gets USC. And watching that Washington Oregon game, Huskies have a little bit of fight on defense, and so does SC. But I think SC and Caleb Williams, they got all their NIL money and like forgot to play football or something, just a little bit. Anyways, hopping over to our kind of players of the week here. Let's see. Do you want to start with yeah, Dane? I mean, it's been the theme of the show. It was a huge win for AZ. Well, I'm pulling up some stats here. You want to talk about Noah Fafita as freshman of the week?
Yeah, he did what he needed to do. The running backs really helped him out in the passing game. Michael Wiley had 2 big plays. And when you have the options of a check down to a running back that can catch the ball and make plays in the open space, it really changes the dynamic of what you're doing at quarterback because you don't have to force the ball downfield. You don't have to take shots downfield. If you are under duress and you have your safety valve, and you dump it off to him and he busts out a 40-yard touchdown run, it just really changes, how you approach each snap because you don't have to force it. Like Caleb Williams, I feel like has to do something himself. He has to scramble. He has to run for it. He has to find one of his receivers downfield versus like a Fafita. He just, if nobody's open in his first and second read, he just hits Michael Wiley, or Jonah Coleman. And they make a play. So it makes it a lot easier. I think his passer rating was like 175. I think he threw like 6 incompletions, but he's not really taking shots downfield. So, but yeah, shout out, the freshman of the week got to be Fafita until somebody stops Arizona, I guess.
I appreciate the length of amount you took to talk there too. It was like perfect. It was literally like if you talked 5 seconds shorter, that I don't know if I had it. So our offensive player of the week is going to be Bo Nix. 24 for 31, 248 yards and 2 touchdowns. The stats are a little bit misleading, honestly, as kind of everyone touched, as Dane kind of said a little bit more honestly than I did probably. Really, Utah got embarrassed. They got dominated, and it was because of Bo Nix. He came in unfazed by that defense. Cole Bishop is a good player. Cole, I didn't hear his name a whole bunch. And really just shredded them from start to finish. Acted like a leader, closed out the game, did everything right. No costly interceptions. Just a complete performance. And in a year, as we just touched on, where maybe Penix was getting overhyped early, maybe where Caleb Williams getting overhyped early. Again, Bo Nix has quietly, consistently been doing it. And the kid from Auburn, man, again, I was his biggest hater, and I just got to own that. And it's been fun to watch. And I just want to see how this really plays out going forward. And he could be potentially potentially the first national championship winning quarterback in Oregon history. So, that may be getting a little too far ahead of myself here. But they look pretty good right now. So I'll leave it at that. My defensive player of the week was Leatu Latu. Let me get back up on the stats here. Really, it's Leatu Latu, but it could be anyone on the UCLA defensive line. Let me just read some stats here. The Murphy twins were absolutely dominant. They had lost to Shedeur Sanders in high school, in Texas high school football. So they really they got back in him. Let's just say that. They were waiting for it. So Gabriel Murphy, 4 tackles, 2 assists, 1.5 sacks. Grayson Murphy, 2 tackles, 1 assist, 1.5 sacks. And again, I'm giving it to Leatu Latu for just his consistent pressure, really every play and collapsing the pocket, every single play. Really, Colorado was screwed from start to finish, which there's another way to phrase that. But Leatu Latu, stats a little bit misleading. Only 1 tackle, 2 assists, but 2 sacks. But truly dominant on the day. And Steve, it feels weird. Usually I kick it to you for the players of the week, but this time Dane's got a little something special for us. See how much time we got here. I know you gentlemen are helping me out.
Before Dane gets into that, I'll do a defensive shout out to Andrew Simpson of Boise State. He had 3 tackles for loss, was a menace back there. And then right now the early line favors the Huskies by 3, and the over-under is 75.5. Between Washington and USC. So, Dane, take it away with your not so special teamers of the week.
Yeah, so normally I'll do like a not team of the week, or usually it's not a team of the week. I'm doing a not play of the week. It's a special teams decision I talked about earlier in the show. Oregon State had the opportunity to go up 3 points going into halftime, and instead of kicking the field goal, taking the lead, they do a fake field goal after Jedfish called a timeout, and it didn't work. And it wasn't even a well-designed one. It was like they snapped it to the holder. He pitches it to the kicker, and the kicker tries to run it into the end zone. Like, that's not going to work. If you're going to do a fake one, it's got to probably be a pass, and you definitely don't want your kicker running the ball down the damn field into like a 220-pound safety that's ready for it. And so I forget who it was in Arizona that made the tackle, but they were this close away to getting it, because if he misses that tackle, or if they get the block on him because he like slithered through them, that's going to be a touchdown. So we're talking about, a very close call, but you got to take the points. Go, and you're on the road, take the lead at halftime. The middle 8 is so key in every football game. They lost the middle 8 because of that decision, and they lost the game because of that decision. That's entirely on the coaching staff for making that call. And really, that's just a boneheaded play that cost your team the win.
Yeah, perfect. So that's gonna cover our special teams and our special teams player of the week and kind of our not team of the week. But yeah, that I don't really understand that. Jonathan Smith he's made a number of these over the years now. They're starting to add up slowly. He's a really good coach. I think he's done a lot more good than harm, obviously, but he has had a few of these kind of questionable decisions throughout the years now. I remember there was a fourth down call against the Cougars a couple years ago that I believe actually cost the Beavers a bowl game, a trip to the postseason that year. So, I hear you. But my team of the week has got to be Oregon. Again, just they're dismantling Utah. Just already talked on that. So, Steve, you got team of the week?
I'm going to second you with Oregon. That would have been my first go-to. I guess I'll go with, to mix it up, I'll go with Boise State, just kind of turn around their season. So stick with that one.
And then Dane, do you want to just stand with your not play team of the week, or you want to do a team of the week?
I'll give a quick shout out to Arizona State. They had lost 10 straight games to FBS opponents. I was the only one that picked them to beat Washington State. They did it. They got the job done. I only caught part of the game, so I'm not quite sure what happened in the second half, but I'm looking at here. Wazoo only scored 6 points in the second half, so that's the same second half struggles they had all season. Got to give a big shout out to Kenny Dillingham. since taking over the play calling duties against USC. Arizona State has looked like a completely different team. DeCarlos Brooks is back after being injured, their running back, who I think makes a huge difference. Now you have a two-headed running back attack, which really opens up, your playbook and your offense. And they broke their streak. They had lost 10 straight games to FBS opponents and finally got it done. So I know it's a big deal up there in Tempe.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up to end the show, Dane. No, in all seriousness, we've kind of been pretty kind of accept the Cougars pretty bad. And shouts to ASU. My cousin went to ASU, so I always have a little bit of love for them. So you guys got any final thoughts before I get us out of here?
No, just the USC versus Washington this weekend, man. For some reason maybe I'm like biased against USC. I have no idea why I always seem to favor USC in my analysis and my preseason stuff and my picks, but I just look at their roster and I think they're going to win this game and they're going to be good, and they always find a way to fall short. So I think I'm still going to pick USC to beat Washington, and I'm going to be right here in a week saying, what the hell am I doing, man?
Very well could be.
Fair enough. All right, guys. For Steve, for Dane, I'm Nick. This has been a SuperWest on Sundays. Deuces.